Chapter 18, Examples for Cost Accounting. So in Chapter 18, we look at different allocation methods and different performance evaluation for divisions. We talk about how we break out divisions into profit centers, revenue centers, etc. So this first example looks at cost allocation. And the cost allocation right now for this hotel area is based on its annual revenue each um, resort generates. We are allocating our administrative costs here. So we have total central office costs of $18,930. What we're looking at is allocating that based on annual revenue. So what is the percentage that each company gets of these particular central office costs? So if it's based on revenue, then we take the amount of revenue for each hotel divided by the revenue for the organization as a whole. And if we lock that calculation cell, then we can carry the formula all the way over. We allocate these $18,930 in costs based on the hotel's percentage. So we take our cost, we can lock this cell times the percentage. And we have allocated all of our central office costs. Our operating margin then is revenue minus that allocated cost. So revenues minus the allocated cost for each division. And our operating margin percent is the operating margin divided by revenues. So what we calculate is that basing that allocation on revenues, the operating margin of every single hotel in this chain is exactly the same. This makes it difficult for the hotel to be able to use operating margin as a performance measure. We also have the issue of a single allocation base being used, that it doesn't always reflect the actual use of different resources. So in part two, the suggestion is to replace this with a system of 4 separate cost pools with costs allocated in the 4 pools on the basis of revenues, assets invested in each hotel, square footage, and number of rooms. So we're basically applying the activity-based costing method that is used in overhead to allocate service costs from the central office. So we've separated into these 4 different activity bases or cost pools. And now we have to determine which one of these methods meets each area. So there's no exact perfect way to do this. What I'm going to go through is the textbook solution, but the textbook solution also says that this could be argued in a multiple of ways. So first we'll look at which costs are attributed to revenue. So in the example, we have advertising costs and advertising costs and the depreciation on computers, and administrative and executive salaries as the things that should go to revenue cost pool. And the argument for that is using the ability to bear principle that says that the resort should share these types of fixed costs based on the proportion of their revenues. So we have the things that are going to revenue are the executive salaries, administrative and executive salaries, plus advertising, plus depreciation costs. For square feet, we are looking at what makes the best sense to allocate per square feet. So the different costs we have here that could be allocated to square feet theoretically that make the most sense are the carpet cleaning contract and the contract to repaint rooms, because we could argue that both of these costs are driven by the number of square feet required to repaint and required to clean for carpet. So we're going to allocate based on square feet, the contract to repaint rooms, and the carpet cleaning. Based on the number of rooms, so based on number of rooms, we would have housekeeping and room maintenance. So the textbook also suggests that the front office personnel costs be allocated to the number of rooms because the number of guests in each hotel drives all of these costs. So we're going to have housekeeping, which already makes sense for number of rooms, the room maintenance for number of rooms, and this front office personnel cost. The last is the value of resort assets. The only cost that we haven't allocated yet is the interest on the resorts. And this should be allocated based on the value of the assets because that is what is driving the total interest cost. Now to make these allocations, we do just the exact same measurement that we did before. So we take the revenue as percentage of total, and we've already calculated that here. So we can just bring that revenue line down. Then we're going to look at square feet as a percentage of total. So we take the square feet in each hotel divided by the total square feet. And these two should not be dollar amounts. Carry that across and change it to percentage. Then the number of rooms. So the total number of rooms for each hotel divided by the total number of rooms overall to get the percentage. And the percentage of assets. So back up here to the number of assets divided by the total assets. We then allocate those costs that we calculated based on their percentage. So we take the revenue allowance from here times the percent of revenue. We want to lock that revenue cell so we can carry it across. Square feet, we take the percentage of square feet times the amount that we have allocated to the square feet cost pool. And we do the same for number of rooms and assets. We then sum and get the total amount of costs allocated to each hotel and make sure that that also allocates the full total cost of our central office. We calculate the operating margin by taking revenues minus our allocated costs, and then we calculate our operating margin by taking that operating margin divided by revenues. And now we've gone from everyone having the same exact operation margin percentage to each hotel having a very different operation percentage based on their activity use of the different cost pools that we calculated.